Hey everyone, Scott Augenbaum, retired FBI agent here with my buddy, my business partner, and the founder of Stealth Family. Kevin and I have joined forces probably in February. It's been almost about 10 months. Kevin, I know it probably feels like years for you, but I'm so excited for 2025 because I know what me and you are doing is going to save a lot of people.
Yeah. Scott, I'm excited too. Very evangelical about what we're doing is because we're taking cybersecurity mainstream. We're taking it to the family. You and I often get the call from the panicked parent, from the person who's lost money from a scam or who's been hacked. And we were just on a call yesterday with a lady who'd been, big scam with her credit card and with a Charles Schwab account and bank accounts. So, we're out here to hopefully be superheroes and help people be superheroes for themselves in this world of cybersecurity with their families and with their fortune and keeping their family safe. So, Scott, quick question for you. We're in the new year as 2025. We've seen a lot over the past year. You've seen, over the last 30 years, over 30 years, working with the FBI and the cybercrime division. What do you see happening in 2025, or what are some of the current trends and some of the things that are happening that people need to be aware of?
As organizations keep spending more and more money to stay safe, they're not doing a great job of it. And so often I've been dealing with companies trying to work with them to keep themselves safe. But unfortunately, the landscape for cybersecurity awareness is nothing more than check the box. Let's do our corporate compliance so maybe we can get 10% off on our insurance policy. And it just kills me because I've been retired now 7 years. And I've learned more in the 7 years outside the FBI than I think I've done in 22 years. And what have I seen? More and more regular people. People like the elderly gentleman I dealt with probably 4 months ago who was taken for $5.7 million in a pig butchering scam. Or my friend's grandmother who happened to lose $19,000 of her life savings, or the victim just recently of a sextortion case. They're going after the end users. They're going after regular people. And those people are being left in the dark because the only people who are doing anything are the cybersecurity awareness programs that talk nothing about this stuff.
Scott, this is great. Let's break this down because you just mentioned a few cases here that you've been dealing with. Let's make sure people really understand this term pig butchering because while it's been around a few years now, explain to people what that is.
Pig butchering is nothing more than a cryptocurrency romance scam that has a horrible name that's very offensive to a lot of victims. It's about meeting someone on social media. Social engineering is almost 90% of all the victimizations. And it's not just happening on email, it's happening on text messages, it's happening on telephone calls, it's happening on QR codes, and it's happening on dating websites and even platforms like LinkedIn, where you meet someone who talks to you, builds a level of trust and rapport, and tricks you into sending money into an investment account and making you believe that you've made a lot of money. This victim who lost $5.7 million didn't just start out sending $5.7 million. The cyber criminals were heartless. They tricked him and they got him to send a little bit of money at a time. That's why they call it pig butchering, fattening the pig. And then when there's no money left, game over for the victim. And the victim has nowhere to go, Kevin. They can't just call law enforcement. There's no rewind button to get the money back.
Yeah, I think there's a constant theme here about what law enforcement can and can't do. You can't dial 911 like you can a typical crime or a car accident and someone respond, correct?
And that's the horrible part about it. When I was with the FBI, I retired in 2018. I was touching every victim in Nashville. I had a busy week. I had at least one victim a day. Today, when I talk to my FBI buddies and I'm like, hey, can you go out and interview this guy? There's two FBI agents who are dealing with these complaints in one city. Others are working other projects and they're getting probably 20 to 25 calls, complaints a week. It's
Yeah.
overwhelming. But here's the thing, Kevin. Almost a majority of them could have been prevented with the right knowledge, but knowledge alone isn't enough. The right knowledge, the right technology, and the right mindset.
Yeah, and it just seems well, it doesn't seem, it has exploded. It's not just in the headlines anymore. It's infiltrated people's homes. You mentioned something earlier that I want to talk about now is elderly fraud. So what are some things that people can do in 2025 to protect their aging parents? To protect them if they're living either with them or living at a senior assisted living facilities or they're still at home. What can people do to protect their elderly folks?
Make them aware. A lot of us are living in that sandwich generation. We're trying to take care of our kids. We're trying to take care of our senior parents. The first thing we need to do is understand the concepts ourselves. If you don't have your stuff locked down tight, when I mean locked down tight, we're talking about the concepts of the cyber secure mindset that I talk about all the time. We're talking about freezing your credit, doing the dark web monitoring, using antivirus, using a VPN when you're out and about. If we're not putting all these right pieces of technology together with education, it's game over. That's why it's so important, though, in the project that me and you are doing with Stealth Family, because we want to keep 1 million families safe in the next 5 years.
For sure. The other one you mentioned, Scott, is sexploitation. This one, just the sound of it, it sounds devastating. What can folks do, or what would you recommend for folks who have, younger kids or teenage kids? They become vulnerable because they're on social media. Their hormones are wacky at this time, especially in that adolescent teenage years. Could you go deeper into sexploitation, what it is, and then what people can do to prevent it?
Yes, exploitation is a financial gain, a manipulation through social engineering where the cyber criminals are targeting young kids and they're getting kids to believe that they're chatting with someone else. So I had a situation that was devastating about 7, 8 years ago, and they're happening every day, but this isn't anything new. But more and more kids have technology, and this individual meets what he believes is a young girl online, and they do a video together and they do things that I've taught my boys you don't do it on video. And the bad guy records the video and it has the young man in a very compromising situation. And then he is sent an email that if he does not pay a extortion threat, they're going to show it to all of his family, all of his friends, everyone at church. And unfortunately, there's been a number of suicides, and these bad guys are located outside the US. Now, that's why we have to have these conversations with our kids. We
Yeah.
have to set up parental monitoring.
One of the things we talk about in Stealth Family, Scott, is if you have a child in your home who has a gaming console or mobile device, they need at a minimum to take our training platform. Is that correct?
That is correct. And this year in 2025, I'm going to be dedicating a lot of time for building training to really keep kids safe. I handled the Crimes Against Children program as the supervisory agent from 2007 to 2012 within the FBI. And I was going out doing presentations to schools. And I remember talking to kids in 2006, and then I would ask them, how many of you knew more about computers than your parents? And in 2006, 50% of the kids raised their hands. Recently, I did a presentation at a middle school and I asked the kids a different question, Kevin. The question was, what percentage of you can do whatever the heck you want to do on your devices and your parents don't have a clue?
Right.
What do you think the percentage was?
I mean, every single one, I would imagine, with all
That's
the apps and yeah, I can imagine. So,
and
Scott,
that
this really speaks to social engineering. I know you've been doing a lot of work and creating a lot of content in social engineering, AI. Just talk briefly about some of the like what social engineering is. Like, what are they doing? Are they playing on your emotions? What are these cyber criminals doing to get at our personal information, to get inside of our homes, and to get at our wealth?
social engineering is nothing more than tricking you into something that you normally wouldn't do. This isn't anything new, Kevin. This has been around since the beginning of times. We're all getting socially engineered. Our 2-year-old kids socially engineer us to play on our emotions to do something. The dog does. Your spouse does it when she wants to watch that television show.
Right.
But the cyber criminals have perfected it through the use of technology. And I remember as a young FBI agent, what I worked white collar cases, and that was someone tricking someone into sending money or doing something through the telephone. That was the wire fraud. That was the statute. Then fax machines came into play. And then it was the Nigerians. Now it is so many different things. And I don't want to hear that you got an email prevention program or something because it's email, it's text messages, it's telephone calls, it's QR codes, it's social media account hijackings, it's pop-ups. It's even going to Google and typing in something as simple as cell phone repair. I had a senior couple typed in cell phone repair on Google. They got a fake website. They were socially engineered and they lost $18,000. And let's not even talk about the business email compromise, which is impacting corporate America, which is the number one fraud. So we're teaching people how to be aware of social engineering in any aspect of their lives. If we're just doing it for email, we failed.
Yeah, it's sex, power, and money, and these people playing this three-card money. You mentioned it goes back to being at the beginning of time. It reminds me of the story of the Garden of Eden in Genesis about the serpent who tricks the Eve into pursuing something because she wanted more power, whatever it may be. So it does. It goes back to being a time. These criminals now are just using more sophisticated methods, and they have access to your home because you're on social media. You're putting yourself out there in the world, and so they can research who you are, they can research who you live, and they can play these games and seduce you into doing whatever they want you to do.
And one of the biggest thing here now is they're getting to us. So whenever you're a victim, and we hope you're never a victim, they're getting to your senior family. They're getting to your kids. And in so many of the breaches that I've dealt with where there's been a significant cybercrime loss at an organization, it occurred because the cyber criminal did their research and they got into people at home or they went after the family member. And so many of these organizations are susceptible to economic espionage, theft of trade secrets, and it's all going back to if you can teach people to be safe at home, they're going to bring that skill set to work.
Yeah, let's close this up with this point right here. You and I have both done work with the enterprise, a lot of the organizations all over the country, and specifically more recently here in Nashville. And these big companies hire staffs. They have a chief information security officer. They have staff. They have million-dollar budgets. They spend it on technology and consulting, compliance, et cetera, et cetera. But people go home and they don't have any of that. They don't have the big budgets. They don't have a chief information security officer. They don't even have a guy. They have an oil change guy, but they don't even have someone to go to if something were to happen to their family. So it seems that a lot of the cyber criminals are now focusing on high net worth individuals, on families, and these types of folks to get the kind of revenue that they used to get and still get at the corporate level. Is that what you're seeing? And it's kind of the reason we started Stealth Family is so we could provide this layer of protection, layer of education, and layer of instant response for these families.
Yeah, there's a lot more people. That's where the cyber criminals are going. And the one thing that I have learned with the FBI is the lack of sophistication required by a cyber criminal to destroy your life. It's amazing. And just like almost every single victim that we talk to, we ask them a series of questions. And unfortunately, the answer is always no. And what we've learned is that if almost 90% of what I dealt with during my career and dealing with thousands of victims easily could be prevented by a series of simple steps and a series of reminders,
Yes.
why don't we just do it? Because when you call us after the fact, it's too late.
Yeah, it makes me think as vulnerable as we all are, and as sophisticated as times have become, and as accessible as we all are, when you go to bed at night, you lock your doors. When you walk away from your car, you wait for the beep, you're locking the doors to your car. Simple things like that can, because even today, even cyber criminals are criminals of opportunity. If you have things locked down, they might skip over to you and go to the next guy or the next family, right? So I think that's part of the lesson here too is get educated, right? Get the proper education for you and your family, get the right technology in place, and have the right person or team to call in case something does happen.
And my last takeaway is going to be very simple, Kevin, and this is a question. If 90% of what I dealt with easily could be prevented by a series of steps, what does that mean? Do it. That's it.
Right,
We don't want to meet you as a victim. That's
right.
simple.
Yeah. Great work, man. Thank you so much, Scott. Always a pleasure and always great to hear your advice and words of wisdom.
Absolutely, Kevin. Here's to 2025 and keeping people safe in this brand new, crazy world.
Yes, sir.